In our last episode, I'd gotten ahead of myself. So the point was to say, what if we want to use state with this list of movies? And so I had meant to come in and say, let's create a list of movies state, and we're going to have a updater method called set list of movies. And then what do we want it to be? Now, obviously here we're going to say use state. Whoops. Let's try that again, but with a lowercase letter. So use state. And what is our original state of the movie list going to be? Isn't it going to be whatever we set up in the first place, which was this movie data sample? And so we can say, use this movie data sample as the original starting point for what this looks like. So just like we did before. So now we've got this list of movies, and we've got this method that will go in and update the list, and all we're doing in this case is adding whatever was already there plus this new movie. All right, hopefully that's making sense. So we've got that set up. The only thing now is it's not liking that I'm not using list o movies. It's declared, but its value is never used. Well, currently I'm pulling this map from the const movie data sample itself. And I do feel like I'm getting a little bit confused with the different terms here because I've named them all very, very similar. I'm going to change this name to be MDS. Now, again, if I take this and right-click and rename, and will it change it everywhere? Yes, it will. Okay, so we get this listed out, the MDS. That's the original state of the movie that we're pulling in from that file. And then here we're using MDS to map out. Now, if we keep it this way, it's going to map out from that original file to build our list. If I run this, it'll work just fine. But when I click Add Movie, it does nothing because it's pulling from MDS, which is the original list that we set up in the beginning. What I want to pull from instead is the new list, which is the list of movies, which will be updated as we add different elements to it. If we're not adding them directly to the JSON file, maybe is a good way of saying that. If we're not changing the database, if we're not updating the JSON file, then I just did something. Then we want to use this object here potentially. So instead of pulling this now from the MDS, I'm going to pull this from the list o movies. All right. And when I save this, this is the part that's cool. Like there's, when I was first learning React, I was kind of frustrated saying, why are they doing all this stuff? I don't really understand it. I don't get it, right? And then we hit this part and some of the other stuff with the state, and this is the part that kind of blew me away. So again, if we pull up our dev tools here, and we pull out the individual elements, so we come in and look and see what's in app, and there's this table, and there's the header, there's the rows, there's the body, and these each individual rows and whatnot. I'll just leave it like this. Then as I click this Add Movie button, let's watch what happens. So I click Add Movie. I guess I had to save it first, huh? So save that, and then click Add. Oh, it already added it. Batman Returns. Let me refresh the page. So we go back to the original state. It resets everything. And when I click Add Movie, so let me break this all out again. Had I already clicked it? That's weird. All right, so we've got all these different components on here, and when I hover over each of them, it's showing me where they are on the website. Make this a little more. Okay, so now when I click Add Movie, let's watch what happens. That one element changed. But then this is the part that's so cool, this idea, it's called reconciliation. When I click the Add Movie now, nothing on the website changes. It's not going to go back to the server. It's not going to try and pull in a new page. It's not going to do anything because it's checking this virtual DOM against the current DOM on the screen, and it's saying there's no differences, so we're not going to update. That is cool. If that doesn't blow your mind, come on. I mean, like, that's cool stuff. And so that's part, again, of what makes React so fast. One other little tiny example here, just to add on to this. This is one of the examples I saw that I just thought was so cool because it just, emphasized this point. If I put on another little function in here and I say, let's go to, this is just going to be a function, we're just going to call it clock. Okay, so function clock, voila. I decided instead of walking you through this example, because we're going to use a bunch of code that we won't understand, but I just want to show the end result here. So we've built this little function. I just went through and built it, paused for a second, and it appeared here for you. And it's got a constant setup called time, and it has a set time method to be able to change this variable. And we set the default state equal to a new date object, which is going to give us our current time. And I've got this little refresh clock function that goes in and sets the time to whatever the time is at that point. And then I've got this little function called useEffect that I needed to go import this useEffect function in to be able to do this. But this goes and refreshes every 1,000 milliseconds or every second, and then returns the new timer ID. And then the end result of all of this is that I go in and return the current date in the format of a local time string. So that's what this is. And then the whole point of this, I added the clock onto the form, and I started to go through this and like type it out, but I realized there's going to be a bunch of stuff in here that we maybe don't understand. And I don't even care if you understand it, as long as you can kind of speak the language. So not so much speak it, but hear it. And so as you look at this code, can you go through one line at a time? And could you look up what a useEffect does? And can you understand that it's then building a little function here to go do this stuff? If you can read it, to me that's more important than being able to memorize it and say it on your own. And so anyway, here's the point of all this little clock example that I just built into our site. This is one of the coolest things when I first was learning it. So we've got this clock, and it's updating every second with the new information, but it is the only thing on the screen that's being updated. Again, React understands the state of the DOM, and it is building its virtual DOM, and it's comparing and saying the only thing that's changing every time I look at it is this little clock. So that's the only element that gets updated. React is pretty dang cool. So now what we're going to do is learn to pair it with .NET in order to have .NET provide the back end and React to provide the front end, which we'll do in the next series of videos. Spencer out.